Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking for Westworld, and I think I know where it's at, so stay tuned. So guys, throughout the series Westworld, there have been two major questions, and one has had to do with the period of time in which Westworld takes place in, and the other thing has had to do with the location. Time, location, uh, space time. There's a kind of connection there. But anyway, guys, we've heard several theories about where Westworld may be. We've heard things from it's underground, it's underwater, it's on the moon, it's on another planet, it's on an island, and they go on and on and on. So before we reveal where the location of Westworld is, uh, let's first uh, um, get up to that point by understanding what the purpose of Westworld is. And the purpose of Westworld, pretty much from what we can come up with is, or how what the show says it is that it's a theme park. It's it's like this getaway for the rich theme park, right? Uh, where they can indulge in many of their whims. It's like a playground, sort of, for the rich too. Uh, but what is clear with Westworld is that it serves a particular group of people. So let's think about that for a second. Westworld is serving the needs of the rich. In we've had that throughout history where areas on the globe have been transformed into playgrounds for wealthy people, and we've had it. I grew up in South Florida. Right across the bridge from me was the island of Palm Beach, and we know the story about Henry Flagler coming from up north and creating this playground. But at the time, South Florida they didn't have a transportation system equipped to get the wealthy people down to the playground at Palm Beach, so they had to pretty much just come in and redo the entire transportation system there, have trains where you can get wealthy people there in luxury and accustomed to how they're used to traveling in comfort and luxury and style. And I don't think that's something that is going to end with wealthy people. um, Even in a situation like what we get with Westworld. So the reason all of this is important is because the point I'm making, guys, is how these people are traveling to Westworld if they're wealthy people, and the purpose of Westworld or Delos Corporation is to make it appealing and attractive for these wealthy people to want to get there and do this and that. Basically, how they get there, I'm still under the assumption that they're going to get there in a certain level of style. So there's got to be a good transportation system to get to Westworld. Now, when we start to think of like underwater, undersea type situations like that, and different things, just doesn't seem very appealing. Uh, Also, let's just say, for instance, Westworld is this island, or it's this type of uh, underwater type facility. The problem with that, guys, is that I don't think that would be a super big deal to hide both the location and the time from the audience. I don't think that would be a real, uh, uh, big head turner, a big head scratcher. And from how I understand, not only the Nolans, but the creator of the Westworld story, Michael Crichton, is that they have a lot of these little twists at the end of their stories and various things like that. So I don't think that would be something that would be uh, something that they would want to go through all this trouble to hide the location and time, just to tell us basically, well, it's just an underwater facility, or it was on this island out here, or it was in the desert over here in Arizona or something like that. So that's why I think all of those theories get thrown out the window about the possible locations of Westworld. Now, in saying that, let me speed up things a bit so I can talk about why I feel like I found this location and why it makes sense. And the thing is this, in dealing earlier what I said about the practicality of being able to get to Westworld and things like that, we know the size of Westworld. It's about 20 times, I believe, the size of the Disney World theme park. So talking about a lot of land, guys, a lot of expenses going into Westworld. So I'm going to jump right to the location. Then I'm going to tell you all the reasons why it would make more sense for the location to be here, and why I feel I'm about 90% sure that this is where the location of Westworld is going to be. Okay, so Westworld, I believe, location takes place on the planet Mars. And this isn't new. People have mentioned that it could be Mars before, but here's where you're going to get to the difference in my theory. There is a big difference in why I think this is Mars, but not the Mars that you all are probably thinking it is, because you're probably thinking this, a Mars. I'm going to get to it, thinking there's a certain type of Mars, but I'm going to explain to you. So let's look at how Westworld looks. Westworld looks, it basically looks like it's out in like the Arizona desert someplace. And I'm pretty sure that's, it's shot somewhere out there. I forget the exact location where Westworld shot, but it looks like that. But here's the thing. We first think of the desert because we're here on Earth, but we forget that the Martian landscape is composed of many canyons and has a very alien similar look, or rather the desert in Arizona does to Mars. And that is because Mars landscape looks very much like the desert. And that's why when the astronauts are preparing to do missions, practice missions out to Mars, they always train in the desert in locations like this because, it looks like the surface of Mars. Besides the fact that it looks like the surface of Mars, let's talk about some other things why it would make more sense for it to be Mars in a very practical sense. When we talk about it could be underwater, or it could be on an island, or it could be on a man-made island. Here's another reason it'll make more sense for it to be on Mars. The sun. How do you produce the sun underwater, like, to the effect that Westworld's done it? You got the sun. If it's on an island or something like that, then you got to deal with the area. We're on the Earth. We have a landmass that, somebody the size of Westworld, it's an island that can be. And then even if so, they could find some type of island or create some type of man-made island. You think about the practicality of constructing and building this place, the mountains and the landscapes and all of that. So when you get to that, and I'm going to get into later some of the economic costs. There was a video done on Westworld, the impractical economic costs it would take to create Westworld for this small group of individuals, and if they would even be able to turn a profit, because we got to think that Westworld isn't exactly Disney World. Disney World is affordable and accessible to the average person. whereas Westworld is only dealing with it. So they got to really, be making enough money. That park would have to be full every day of the year. But anyway, so besides, that portion, getting back to the sun, if you're on Mars, you wouldn't have to reproduce the sun because, you'd have, but not only that, on Mars, you would have a large amount of land already available and cheap land probably too. So another reason I think this would have to be on Mars is if we take the example of what Westworld is talking about today, the relevance of the Westworld story, and why I think a lot of people are so attracted to it. Because one of our leading conversations today is artificial intelligence. It's not like it was when the original Westworld movie came out and people were saying, this is fantastical, this is so futuristic, we probably couldn't imagine something like this happening anytime soon. Well, for us, they didn't even have personal computers in the homes when the first Westworld came out. So now, basically androids and humanoid looking robots, we're getting way better with perfecting android like human beings and creating computer brains and things like that. So that is a relevant story to the Westworld show. But in addition to that, what else is relevant in our real world today that gets a lot of conversation as far as our future endeavors, and that's missions to Mars, going to Mars, exploring Mars, colonizing Mars, moving to Mars, because in case something happens to the Earth and we can continue on living possibly, as the human race. So, and us going to Mars, much like us building artificial intelligence robots, to a very advanced level, how they appear in this world is not. These are things right around the corner for us. So Mars and artificial intelligence seems to fit really well, and that's another reason why I think Mars would make a good location, because it's very relevant to the conversation today. And I think a lot of things have been done on the Westworld show that's made it relevant as well to what's going on with us today. So everything sounds good so far, but okay, now going back to Mars. How come Mars looks like this? Why can they walk around it and breathe and things like that? And well, obviously, this is a future time where Mars has been terraformed. You see where I'm going here? And think about if Mars is terraformed and there are already Martian citizens, because the Delos Corporation could possibly have been one of the main colonizers or corporations funding missions to Mars. And due to that, they now have this territory on Mars that is, along with other colonists that have lived there, that have come there. But it would make the land very cheap. If they were able to get there and start claiming parts of the Martian, much like how it was when early on in history, when they would discover new continents in the New World and things like that in North America, and when they came and groups and people and families would come and they would have so much land that they would be given or gifted, and they can start creating and building towns and structures and things like that. So I think in this is what's happening with Westworld, and why it would be very practical for them to be on Mars. Now, for when the rich do come in, some of them would already be Martian citizens, I'm thinking. So, and already made their fortunes on Mars, and maybe they're and obviously for this to happen, this would have to be pretty far in the future, maybe. And I got another twist at the end of why I'm saying maybe it would be real far in the future, and that is because you know, uh, they would already be living on Mars, many of the citizens. And so they would be able to travel to Westworld by train. When we see them, they're out there on this train traveling to get to Westworld. Again, probably at least it appears they're covering a large amount of distances on this train, which again, kind of makes the cost of building and constructing Westworld very impractical. I don't, realistically, I don't think any corporation now or in the future would want to, would see something like that as profitable if they're a profitable corporation looking for profits. I just don't, I wouldn't see Westworld unless they could get the land cheap and the areas fairly cheap, or at a good price to turn a good profit, that it would be a good business endeavor. But anyway, that's what my guess would be. This is a future where Mars has been colonized, and people are going to Westworld and experiencing Westworld on the planet of Mars. Now, it could also be that they're doing interplanetary travel at this point, or a trip from Earth to Mars, kind of like in the original Total Recall movies, and things like this. But talking about heating up Mars, and Mars being an atmosphere much like Earth is, and that Mars once even looked like Earth. This is all pretty much confirmed by science that this is pretty much could have been the case. But here's another part to it that's going to be different, I think, than some of the other theories that you've heard just about it being on other planets, or and pretty much relating to Mars, it being dealing with Mars, and that is that there's this physicist, I believe his name is John Bradenberg, and it's crazy. You can look him up. I'll try to leave a link in the description. And he's talking about this nuclear war that occurred on Mars a long time ago, and he's very serious about this. That this happened, and he believes that Mars was under threat. And in a very eerie way, he mentions that it could have been some type of artificial intelligence that drove Mars out. So this is the Michael Crichton twist to it. And again, Michael Crichton being the author of Westworld, but he's done some movies, and I don't want to say any ones in particular, because I don't, if you guys haven't read or seen some of my Crichton movies, I don't want to spoil it for you. But there are some movies he's done with man creating technology that seemingly exists in the past, or they discovered it in the past, but it was from the future. And what I'm saying, the connection I'm trying to make with the art of Westworld and this particular situation with the location of Westworld, is to say that my belief is that it could possibly be this is an early Mars. This is a Mars where all humans were first probably Martians, and that the hosts are going to end up destroying the entire planet. The hosts, as they gain sentience or consciousness, as they gain their consciousness, but it could also be that they are some type of early pre-human. And if you watch my other video about how Westworld will end, this all kind of ties into the same theory, which I like. Is why I like the idea of Mars. But anyway, guys, I went a little bit longer than I wanted to go about where the location is be. I just want to kind of, basically, try to give a more practical, location of Westworld and where Westworld, could possibly be. And that, it could have been that early humans or a new set of humans actually end up fleeing from early Mars and then colonize Earth. And those early humans could actually be the hosts. And I think that would be a very interesting twist, kind of aligned with some of Michael Crichton's twists and things where the humans are connected in the future and the past and things like that. But anyway, guys, give me your opinions. I'm sorry about the length of the video. Just kind of trying to get out my thoughts here and trying to debunk some of the other ideas about the location of Westworld. What do you think? Where do you think Westworld is? Do you think the underwater Westworld theory holds up? Or being underground or subterranean, would that be something of interest if it was, or something that you felt they had to hide this long? But anyway, guys, if you like these type of videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, take care.